You probably used to hear your coach saying, enjoy the journey, but do you really understand what your coach really means? Do you catch the essence of what happens to you daily from the moment that you undertake this journey? Today we are talking about long-term thinking. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 10 of our podcast with Coach Joao,
Hello guys.
Coach
Hi.
Alessio,
Ciao, buongiorno.
Coach Melina. We are
Morning,
all three in,
everyone.
we are all three in Dubai, and Coach Mohammed in France,
Hello.
and myself in Italy. Hello, and this is Chat with BR Coaches. Okay, so long-term thinking. So when we started the chat with BR coaches last year during COVID lockdown, we didn't put an expiration date. We said, okay, let's start because we had so much to share. We wanted to share with the athletes topics to reflect and to learn, not only for that specific moment, but we were looking a little bit in the future, and also we wanted to give the athletes some tools. So at the beginning of season 2, we tried our best to talk about the art of coaching and basically the art of training. So we talk about swimming, cycling, running, transition, nutrition, recovery, everything relating to training. But since last episode, we started this mini cycle of the art of mindset, and we talk about the art of competing. So body and mind. What do you think, Joao?
So um, I think from my side, most of the things when we talk about long-term thinking, it's kind of a very usual term that everybody uses to everything, not only for triathlon. It's very used to the companies and when you do the project, we should think long-term. Nothing is short-term. We should think long, long, long. Everybody says the same thing all the time, and it become quite. I don't think people really think of what that's really mean of long term because it's so usual. Then people say, "What is long term for you? Is it 2 months, 6 months? What do you mean with long term? Is it 5 years? Is it 20 years? Is it an entire life? So what is the long term in terms of mindset? So for me, I see long term as a really long term. That's my personal view of long term. I don't see that a journey like in a sports or triathlon, for example, or any sports, anything less than 4 years for me, it's not a long term. So I like to think of 4 years cycle when you want to see really strong changes. And I see the performance of many athletes the ones that they stick to the plan. 4 years they really go to one level up. Um, there are many mini cycles in between that you can call medium term plan, short term plan. And I think the first thing I would say is to set up what is long term for people. And I think also that many beginners, they mistake thinking that 3 months is a long term, right? Oh, I'm going to work for my 3 months and then I'm going to be ready for my race because I worked so hard for this last 3 months. Unfortunately, it's nothing. The reality is 3 months. If you think about your life, it's nothing. Um, and just to finish my introduction about the topic, our Olympic athletes has Olympic Games cycle of training, and every 4 years they do one cycle of training. So a guy that finished the Olympic Games, he's gonna slow down and build up his cycle every 4 years. And some athletes they go to 4 Olympic Games. So that means that they are thinking about 16 years plan, right? If I'm not counting when he started to train 10, 5 years old. So just specific for Olympic Games. That's a long-term thinking, in my opinion, right? But that was just for the guys listening and kind of brainstorm a little bit of that part.
I think the only comment I would add to what Joao just said was I do agree with using the Olympics as a good example of what long-term thinking is in sport. And especially with endurance sport as well, you've got to really build the foundation over time before you can really kind of load the body further down and expect some performance returns. That said, I think we do probably need to adapt it a little bit for the average age group athlete. They're not necessarily looking, potentially some of them are not necessarily looking at, a 16-year plan or anything like that in terms of high performance in sport. But if we take it from a health and activity perspective, it's still about a long-term view. So stopping and starting, so coming into the sport for 3 to 6 months, getting ready for a race, then taking a 6-month break and then trying to come back again after another 6-month break, affects that long-term development of the athletes. And long-term development isn't just, from 5 years old up, from whatever your starting point is. So even if you think that, I'm not an Olympic athlete, so I don't need to worry about it that much. Yes, okay, that's a fair argument. But from a health and activity point of view, for a healthy lifestyle and your longevity in sport, whether you're performing high or not, you still need to think long term and you build it over time. And which is why we always say to athletes, if they have a really bad week or if they have one bad session, it's not that big a deal because it's still a little building block to the long-term plan, if that makes sense. Alessio?
Yeah, from my point of view, doing a step backward, I think is in the beginning it's best to ask to you why you do this. Sometimes in the beginning or while you are training or during the journey, is good. Remember why you do this, because you don't have solid reasons to do that. You quit very, very, very soon, and then the performance is good. You need many, many years often to reach your goal, and it's not easy, especially in triathlon. You have 3 sports, and I think you cannot think in short term in any case. Even if you are a professional or former professional in other sports, you need to build your engine, your skills, and whatever the goals are. Even if you stay fit or improve something, you need many months or years. But if you don't remember every time why you do this or whatever, it's very hard.
Before giving the word to Mohammed, yeah, we went back to exactly what we spoke about last time. The art of competing. Finding a goal, finding an objective that when you set up a long term is always so difficult because you lose the focus, it starts becoming a little bit blurry. But anyway, everybody has his own or his her path to follow when they're approaching an endurance sport like triathlon, for example. And what we see is that the body and fitness and the changes in that, they're just a part of it. But in reality, to get to the goal that is far away, or even if it's like Melina said, in blocks, you have this goal for a while, and then you rest, and then you get it again. We see that the mind must be the foundation. It's so underrated, and there is so much science now that is partnering fitness and psychology, because science is so that the results on working on your mind, working on meditation, working on structuring your visualization of everything when you train, it's producing better effects in the athletes that they do compared to the other one. What's your thought about this body and mind thing, Mohammed?
I think you have to separate them, and the body reacts differently, but the mind really is the one that controls everything. But going back to the question of long-term thinking, which I was really thinking about it. It's important that you communicate with the athlete and make sure that they have small goals that they can reach within 6 months or a year. And this has to be communicated to the athlete and give them long-term goals and short-term goals, so they're able to kind of see the progression. If they don't see a progression, they get bored. And I mean, there are some athletes who want to see PBs from after 1 month or 2 months, and that's just this kind of sport is brutal. It takes time. It takes time for an athlete to build the fitness, to build the mindset, to build so much. It doesn't happen within 2 months or 3 months. So this is a coach's job, is to kind of communicate with the athlete, and these are my thoughts on long-term thinking.
We agree that in triathlon, because of the three disciplines, it's really hard to think of a short-term goal, because you're never going to have full development in one discipline. There's always a gap in something, and that's the beauty of the sport. So for sure, if you do triathlon, you know that there's a week that you're really good in running, you feel amazing and you feel like you got it, and then the next week you feel that your bike is better, but then your run went down a little bit, but the swim is medium, and then you keep switching one side to the other. That's why we talk about long-term development until you feel all those little gaps on your fitness level, because it's not only about endurance, not only about speed, it's not about threshold, it's about VO2, it's about everything together into a race game. So when you start to feel those little gaps, that's where you know that you are on top of your game. I think, and it takes time. It takes time because the body is a machine that needs to be cared. You cannot just keep hammering one day to the next, and the recovery is really important as well. Yeah.
Okay, let's take 30 seconds break. First of all, service advertisement from BR. We just today we had the run with the Olympian with Coach Martyn every Wednesday at the track, the Sports City at 5 o'clock. We run with him, do some drills, do some sets, and then people who need extra training, they can coordinate with him. And then we have our track session every Wednesday at 5 o'clock. Let's take 30 seconds break. So, back with chat with BR coaches. Let's go a little bit deeper into the psychology. Okay, let's try to distinguish two types of athletes, let's say. So we see so many athletes who commit for a triathlon trip much more than a journey, like Melina said, But then they stop there. They train hard for 3-6 months, do the race, and then quit. And then I think it's kind of a nowadays mentality when you're ticking in the box like stamps in a passport. So why do you guys think that those athletes don't pursue a legacy in sport? They just stop there. They keep in doing this one, and that's it.
Okay.
Is that just that they love for triathlon doesn't glow, or is something else?
Very easy.
I think it comes down to kind of touching on what we talked about last week and what Alessio just alluded to earlier about what their why is and what brings them into the sport. Depending on what the why is, it will kind of determine what it is about the sport that they enjoy and they focus on. And we tend to have two types of people, or types of goals. And you've got the ego-oriented goals, or people who are focused on that are all primarily the external motivators. So the race, getting the medal, the recognition, the change in their body and how they look, all that kind of stuff. And then you have people who are generally more focused on the process. So those that are able to, I guess what we say, enjoy the journey that little bit more, that are going from one training session to the next. And it's more about, they want to get, say, technically better at the swim. So they're able to switch off the watch and forget about the pace and focus on their swimming because they just want to get the swimming a little bit better. They're the ones that we see working a little bit more on their technique. And even though the goal, like the race goal is there, they're equally as happy to keep going with just almost one training session at a time. And this is where we found we saw this a lot during lockdown. Those people that are primarily ego-oriented, and we took away the races, we took away all the extrinsic stuff, generally struggled to keep going through the lockdown. Whereas those that were a bit more process-oriented were able to just say, okay, you know what, I'm going to use this time to work on this, or I'm still going to keep on training because I enjoy it, it's part of who I am, it's part of their identity. And I think as coaches, we kind of need to be able to identify where our athletes sit, try and reinforce that why. So those that are a little bit more ego-oriented, we try and put more goals in line, maybe try and praise them more, give them more ego-oriented feedback, and vice versa for the process-oriented ones. But gradually, the aim would be to try and almost, I think convert's probably the wrong word, but I can't think of another word, but the more we're into the process of things, the more we start to look into longevity, into the sport, and consistency. And one thing I always say to my athletes, that consistency is far more important than volume and intensity. You can't really be talking about high volume, high training load, high intensity, unless you're training consistently. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. You taking 5 days off in the week and having a really heavy training weekend isn't going to benefit you in the long term. So I think it's identifying where those athletes are and trying to work with that. Sorry, I've rambled a bit.
I'm gonna take note of these two words that you used, the longevity and consistency, because they are the leitmotif today of our chat.
Anyone?
Who's next?
Anyone?
I want to focus more on the people who quit early. For me, there are two main reasons why the people quit. The first is the goal too big, too soon. They want to rush and, okay, for example, on a slot this year, yeah, but you need 3-4 years maybe to get. No, this year, and you can't, because the level is very high. You need experience, you need training, and they start, doesn't look the result, good result, and quit. The second reason is mentally. Focus every day, 3 trainings per day for 2 months, 3 months, maybe race every week, and then after 2, 3, 4 months, they probably subtract time to family, to work, economic issues sometimes, and after 3-4 months they quit. And that's why we need time another long-term goal.
Yes.
You rush too soon and you risk to get injury. It's very dangerous. Some many aspects.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this is really a good point here that Coach Alessio brought because, um, you know, that's exactly the point of the long-term thinking. It's to be patient on your goals. I think that's the key of the long-term process that we were saying. You know, it's to set up the goals that they are related to the level that you are at the moment. You know, and if you think about long-term, and if you say, I want to do triathlon because, you know, I want to do a full Ironman at some point in my life, but your level right now is swim open water 750 meters, right? So now you have where you are now and your goal. So how long this is gonna take? You know, how long this is, how far you are from your goal. I think when you see that gap, it's you're gonna find who can think long term in sports. You know, so some people they're gonna say, "Oh, no way! I'm not gonna wait 4 years to do my full Ironman." You know, this is not for me. I'm just gonna keep doing my other sports. You know, and some others are gonna say, "Yeah, I will try. If I can make it 3 years, good. You know, if I can short a little bit, I will dedicate more time. If I cannot, that's it. It's gonna take 4 years of my of dedication, you know, and you're gonna learn about yourself more than anything. So the setting the goal, it's really important to define your question, Tommaso. What is the difference between the ones that they stop earlier or the other ones that they're still going. It's not about motivation. So it's not I stop because I don't like, you know, I don't, it's not about this. If you don't like the sport, okay, you can stop at any time. That's fine. You don't like triathlon, you don't like swimming, or you don't like running, you stop. That's it. But if you like, but anyways you stop because you cannot mentally focus on a long term, that's where I think um, you didn't learn about sports, unfortunately. You know, that's more where I feel that people miss a little bit.
I think, sorry, just to jump in on one of the points that Alessio raised earlier about potentially why people might stop. It could be family or work issues. I think that's quite a key. That's quite a key point because any average age grouper has to juggle work, family, everything else alongside training. They're not pro athletes. You know, they don't do this for a living. And sometimes they can get so excited with a race goal that they jump in kind of straight into the deep end and not really factor in the family and the work situation. So at some point they're going to drop the ball, and it could either be they might drop the ball at home, they might drop the ball at work, they might drop the ball at the sport, and then eventually that will impact on the sport. So they've got to be able to be really honest with themselves, aside from, like Joao said, aside from being honest about where they are, where they want to go, and how long it's going to take. They also need to be really honest about what their life looks like at this point in time and exactly how much they can fit in. Because ultimately, sport is just one aspect, and if it doesn't fit in with the rest of their life, it's going to fade away.
Mohammed, do you want to add something on this? I think it,
Yeah,
yeah.
just real quickly, I think you've got people with different personalities. Some personalities are just, they want to try things, and they get bored really fast, and they don't have the patience or the perseverance to continue something. So it's like they instantly want something, and just like this generation where they want things instantly, and it's like this, you know, it becomes a personality trait, and they want things right then and now. And but this sport is not about now. It's about planning. It's about you know, being patient. It's about consistency. It's about perseverance. So, you know, it's, I think it really comes down to the person and his personality, and how they react to these things.
Yeah. So before we take 30 seconds break, just to wrap up this part,
Oh my God.
um, the the terms that have been used: longevity, consistency, planning, patient. Okay, these are all the terms that an athlete that is starting his journey must take into consideration. And these are terms that you can read the definition and the vocabulary, but in reality, these are terms that you learn day by day for probably a long time, because this is when sports become life, and vice versa. Okay, so these are the things important. Another aspect that Alessio brought up, which I like a lot, is that sometimes athletes set up goals too hard, too big, too early. Okay, and it's just because this journey as the beginning, you have the perception that, okay, yeah, I can do that, but in reality, you're not alone. Okay, so yeah, you can control yourself, but then you need to deal with other people. So going for a race where there are big number of athletes, it's difficult to qualify for Kona. It's difficult to qualify for 70.3. Let's take 30 seconds break. Remember, with the VR, we have fuel station with the products from sponsor and from Stealth. So basically, you guys order and you get it delivered at Classic Tuesday, not in Jeddah, but not even in Italy, but in Classic Tuesday, Dubai, you get it. And coached athletes, they have discount on that. 30 seconds break.
In order to take you to the next level, we have to know two basic metrics, which is where you are now, your base level, and where you are going, your final goal. For this reason, we create a system called BR stages. The BR stages consist in 4 levels. Number 1, fundamentals. Number 2, skills. Number 3, performance. And finally, specialization.
We're back with Chat with BR Coaches. We spoke about long-term thinking, longevity, consistency, planning, patience. Um, why triathlon requires long-term thinking? We've been asking as coaches. We are asking to our athletes. Um, we spoke about athletes that sometimes don't have it yet, or Melina brought up a great point about family and work. Sometimes it's not the right moment. Okay, everybody has his development and also in these things in family and work. So on the other hand, we have athletes who are committed for life into this journey, which is sport and life, endurance, triathlon and life. What do you think they have compared to the others that the others don't have? What do these athletes that they have a life commitment in sport and endurance have compared to the others?
So here I would like to start with the mindset of I will get as good as I can in something, or I will do something to have fun regardless of the level that they're gonna get. I think that there's two ways that people think. One is I will do my best to get really deep in the sport that I'm doing, and I will not change so much until I really feel that I mastered that sport. And this is going to be a lifestyle journey because, to really get really deep in something, you need to do every day for a very long time. If you want to play a piano, if you want to sing, if you want to do anything, that's an everyday game. You cannot do a little bit expecting to be really good. So I think when you go into this is going to be the way I'm going to live my life and not this is the sport that I'm doing, then people really get into like, okay, I will do swim, bike, run, whatever, strength or anything, because this is the way I'm going to live my life. It's not the way the sport that I'm doing is much deeper than that. So as a lifestyle, you choose to do those activities to keep you health strong, to set your mindset, to set your energy, to to uh, kill your stress or anything. So that's your way to live your life. If when people start to feel that this is the way they're going to live their life, and this is something that's going to be part of their daily routine, I see that there's a little bit of calm for results. They are more patient. They understand that it's going to take time, and they enter in a more cycle, smooth way. Until they get there, it's a little bit of a hush to perform. I know I want the next race. I'm going to do my best because this Olympic triathlon I'm going to smash, and then it doesn't happen, and then slowly they start. It's funny because they have this peak of adrenaline in the beginning because they feel fast, and then they don't get the first result. They hammer to the next one. They don't get the third one. They don't get the fourth one. They don't get, and then you see the guy like, okay, I think it's longer than I thought. Let me slow down. And I was like, whew, they calm a little bit. So my point is more like when they can realize this is their life, it's not only the sports that they do.
Completely agree with Coach Joao. It's not about have something more or less, but it's about the approach to the sport. If the approach is a lifestyle, sports lifestyle, you can have a good and long journey. If you want to result and perform well since the beginning and rush, see, quit soon, quit early and soon.
I don't think it's anything necessarily that one type of person has over another person. I think potentially deep down, we all have the potential to take that approach. I think if we listen back to what Joao said, his choice of words was spot on in that it's ultimately down to a choice. You see people that are very successful in the corporate world, but they can't seem to take the same approach in the sport. It's not because they can't. They've done it in the corporate world. That's still a different world, but it's still an achievement environment. Education, work, sport, they're all achievement environments, and there's lots of similarities between them. It's not a case of one person has something over the other. They choose, this is where they choose to put their effort. For some reason, they get something out of it. Whether, like Joao said, is to de-stress from work, it's their time to themselves, they want to make sure they're physically fit and healthy, whatever it is, ultimately it's down to a choice. So if someone chooses to do this, for a slightly more long-term view, then they'll reap the benefits in that sense as well. But sorry, just to kind of go back a little bit to one of the other things, and I think this is an issue in triathlon. It's not just in Dubai, although if we look at Dubai, the big event in the Dubai season in the calendar is the Ironman 70.3. That's the one that's got the highest profile, to the point that people come into the sport with Ironman, whether 70.3 or full Ironman in mind. And they say, oh, I'm only going to do a sprint, or I'm only going to do an Olympic. There's no such thing as only in triathlon. Even a sprint triathlon, even a super sprint, you're looking at 45 minutes to an hour. It's still a long event. So we need to move away from this. I'm doing triathlon, therefore I have to do Ironman, or I have to do 7.3. Triathlon is hard no matter where you're at, whether it's super sprint or full Ironman. And I think we need to make sure that people are aware of that, and we respect the distances so they can then take the long-term view.
So I can only describe that athlete in 3 words. The one that really, sticks to the sport, I can describe in 3 words. He's got grit, he's got persistence, and he's got perseverance. Those are the 3 key words I think that describe that athlete with a long-term mindset thinking. This is what really makes him stand out to the athlete who goes just for the short, uh, short race and then stops the sport. That's the difference.
Very quick. I had a chat with a new athlete yesterday, and you know, very classic example of somebody starting because it wants to start doing a half Ironman relay. So in Dubai, because person is not prepared to swim and bike, so he's gonna do the run. So if you look at that perspective, it's really nice because you see that the person knows the limitation and then wants to do a relay to feel the game, to see how it goes, and then take to the next level. But then you see that how important is somebody that has a little bit more experience to understand what is happening behind. Because what happened was this person was thinking to run all the season and then do a relay and not learn the swim and the bike while she was going to prepare for a relay. And then, so people are going into the sport thinking of, like Melina said, one specific race, and they're not learning what is triathlon. So, I did a little bit of a back step with her and said, do you know what is triathlon? Because Ironman is not triathlon. Jamal, how are you, my friend? Ironman is not triathlon. Ironman is one brand of the sport, and it take a big part of the cake in triathlon, but it's not triathlon. So educational on this aspect, we're going to teach people how to do the right steps into Ironman if they want to do an Ironman. And that's another way to do the long-term thinking, So I think the more you educate people about the sports, the more we can share information, the more people understand what they're going to do and what game they're playing, Because, of course, everybody wants to have a big, nice jacket, a nice hat, a nice medal, but to get there, you need to learn the sport. More than anything else, you need to learn triathlon. You need to learn what is triathlon, from where it came, why we do, from where, and then you love the game. You love the game. It's not about the medal. You love the game. It becomes part of your life. So the long-term thinking that we're saying is deeper than set goals as well. It's more like you get into that game because it is what you do, right? So I think, I see you later, Lisa. It is what people do as their life, I think, but we need to teach, we need to teach because the marketing around the race is too strong and people get that vision of when I do this, if I finish that, for sure I will be a better person. It's kind of this mindset, and it's not only that.
I think more than if you finish that one, if you continue to perceive it, if you continue to pursue, if you continue with the longevity in your plan and the consistency in your patience in your planning, then you're gonna be a better person. That's the idea that we want to give, right? The
Yeah.
mindset is not like okay, from A to B. B, it's a long way. And so if you learn this, because why sport is good to learn this kind of idea. It's good because you can quantify and you can see the results, let's say in a tangible manner, much more than in life. If you have a project that you don't know how it's gonna go, and you want to perceive it, it's a long-term project. In life, sometimes you don't see the results right away, or you do perceive them because the variables are much more difficult to manage. That's why in sport, okay, we start reducing the things that we can control, and then we can see the results much more. And that's why Alessio once again was saying about the goals too big too early, because it's a building block. It's a building process. Then definitely you can bring it from sport into life.
And no shortcuts, right? So the game, that's the biggest problem I think that people have with when they go to sports development. There are no shortcuts. So if you finish your university and you are 21 years old and you know a really high guy in a high position in the work that you want, you might get there with a little bit of shortcut, right? If you know the right person in the work. We know that this is a corporate world and it happens. You know the guy puts you there, you are in a high position, you are very young, you make money. In sports, the same guy, he cannot do a shortcut. So he cannot say, oh, I know my friend there, I will finish my Ironman in 3 months of training. He cannot do that. So, there is no hiding in sports. You cannot hide. So whatever you have, you're going to expose. If you have weaknesses on your, if you cannot take longer, and this is a little bit of a gap on your mindset. If you cannot run long, you cannot swim long, you cannot bike long. So there is a gap, on your mental strength. You need to work on that. There's no way out. You're going to have to work on that. If you don't like running and you want to do triathlon, you're going to have to run. Because there's a run in triathlon. I think the mindset of, okay, I will have to go through the process to finish what I said I'm going to do. It's very tricky for a lot of people, because usually in our lives outside, we do planning mentally, and then if it doesn't work, we just keep moving around, and it's easier to trick. No, I don't want to do this, I'm going to do that. Oh, no, I didn't say that, I'm going to do that. But when you set up a goal, you sign up for a race, you cannot just say, you can say once that you're not going to do it, but you're going to really feel it's strong inside of you, because the conflict of what you said you're going to do with what you're doing is very strong. I feel that with more patience and a little bit more clarity on the goal, it is easier for people to stick to the plan, right? Learning that process. That's my view on that.
And definitely in the three disciplines that we have in triathlon, the one that requires, we have acknowledged that, and as coaches we tell our athletes, the one that requires the real consistency and structuring is the swim. So that's why every Monday we have a coach swim session at Blue Wave at 7:30 with Coach Melina. Melina, where are we at on the coach sessions now? What are we focusing right now?
Well, we usually start the sessions. We try and take a slightly longer warm up and make sure we work through technique. That goes for all the swimmers across the board. So the fast ones to reinforce what they're doing, and the slightly slower ones, it gives me a chance to give them a little bit more feedback on what they're doing and work on that. And then usually there'll be some sort of interval session for the second half of the set, and it'll vary from week to week. At the moment, we're keeping it slightly shorter intervals because that means the swimmers are able to keep their form and swim the entire interval with good technique, rather than going with longer intervals where their stroke might break down and they'll only actually swim half of it properly. So yeah, for now that's where we're at, but it will change as we get into the season.
Okay, so every Monday 7:30 at Blue Wave with Coach Melina, a BR coach swim session. 30 seconds break, we come back for the conclusions.
Usually when a person is stressed and they're trying to work on healthier habits, and that's what happens to most of us, is we try to work on healthier habits, but we have certain internal stressors that prevent us from developing those good habits. So we get stressed, and then we stop. So my job is to intervene right at the point where they start and where they stop, so they can continue. So I'm giving them the power and the tools to continue to build these healthy habits long term.
All right, guys, we are back with Chat with BR Coaches for the conclusion of this episode. So, as we said before, we are into the cycle of the art of mindset. Last time we spoke about the art of competing. Today we are talking about the art of long-term thinking. Uh, as we said, we want you guys to trust us that it's not an easy process. It's not a short process. It's all based on longevity and consistency and planning what we're gonna do. Setting the right goals at the right time, but also choosing the right time to start this journey and to devote the maximum attention to this journey. We asked what do the athletes that they commit for a long-term journey, what do they have? Okay, and all the coaches they talked about that, and it's the need of perfection, is the need of something that goes on for a long time, but mainly it's a way of transposing life into sport and sport into life, and helping the two dimensions effectively. What was your when when did you realize that you needed this kind of journey in your life? There must be a probably if there was some event, you got illuminated, and then all of a sudden you realize, okay, I need to do this journey, because we are all, no, the the five of us, we are all in our journey of triathlon in a way or the other. Okay, when did you realize that you needed to go? Okay, this is what I want to do.
Who wants to try first?
I'll go first.
Melina.
Okay. Well, I've been in sport all my life, since I was about 12. Basketball, swimming, and triathlon. I think the actual point where I think I've probably realized just how much I get out of sport was when it was taken away from me. So when I was 21, I had a car hit me when I was out riding, and it took me about 6 months to be able to get back to a position where I was able to train. And I think that was probably the point that I realized just how much I gained from doing the sport, not from a competitive aspect, but just from going outside, doing something physical, and it was time for me, it was time to de-stress, and it was just something that I really enjoyed. And even though it took me, since that accident, 16 years to get back into competitive sport, I kept on pretty much with daily fitness in one way or another. I kept swimming going, and it wasn't until I had an opportunity from a life cycle point of view that, kids were at a stage where I could kind of leave them alone for a bit and all that stuff, that I was able to get back into it. So for me, it was the point where I really realized it really helped me was basically when it was taken away and I couldn't do it. I realized just how much I missed it.
For me, it's very easy since the beginning.
Since the beginning.
Yeah, there is, since I was a child, and
You never stop.
many years. Yeah,
You never stop, huh?
no, never.
Good.
And I want to continue.
Yeah, you
for
had
many
no
years.
option. You had no option.
Options.
You're here now, you have to do it.
Mohammed.
How about you?
Yeah, so for me, I don't think there was one particular moment. I think there were many moments that built up together, and I realized that this is something I'm really passionate about, and I realized that this is going to be the way of my life. But there was not one particular moment. There's just too many moments put together, and that's what this is where I am right now.
I think
Me?
this brings a great point, because we talked about athletes that they have it and they want to do this journey, and maybe athletes that are listening to the podcast, they don't have it. They don't feel like, okay, how do I get this one? Okay, you need to trust the process. You need to trust the process, because that's why you have a coach. That's why we are giving them daily goals and monthly goals and then seasonal goals, because at the end, this repeating this pattern is gonna make sure that you're able to set up goals that are long term. Okay, I want to do now. I want to do a full distance triathlon. Okay, as well, as Mohammed said, sometimes we don't know where it's starting. Okay, if you are destined to start, you will start, or maybe there are gonna be several things that will add up, like lifestyle, work, your physical abilities. Maybe you're working on your weaknesses, and until the point you're not able to commit. Okay, it happened to me that until I wasn't able to get my Achilles fixed, for example, I wasn't able to commit for a long term plan for my races. So it's something that in life, that's why we're here, basically. Okay, we are talking about it. We're trying to give elements to athletes. We are trying to give some tips, but definitely there are no shortcuts. I like when Joao said there are no shortcuts, because it's a pyramid, right? It's not like you can build a pyramid the other way around. No, it doesn't stand. Okay, so yeah. Anything else, guys? You wanna add?
I want to share why my points when I
Yep.
felt that was because I think it's for me it for
Yeah, you
me
didn't
I
talk. You're right.
yeah, you didn't let me talk. I'll talk to you later about this. So um, for me, I realized at some point it was about connection. You know, like when you disconnect from things that you like to do, at some point, you like you disconnect and then you don't feel that you're doing things that they are progressing in your life. So at some point, I realized that triathlon was one of the things that make me connected to myself to do the other things. So um, I really felt that this time, okay, I cannot stop this, because this is kind of what brings me back um, to what I like to be. And it's not about winning. It's not about racing. It's not about challenges. It's about trying to get better. And then I felt that every time I disconnected from that situation, the other things, they were falling apart. The work, relationships, the way I see things. So I think it was a moment that I felt that few things in life, they have to happen. Sports and triathlon, they are a must. So some people, they do yoga, some people they read a book, some people they go for a hiking, some people that's where they connect to themselves. Um, so probably for us, it's when you do your hard track session, when you do your bike session with your guys, and then you go for a run, then you feel like, oh yeah, I am doing my thing. So I think that's more when I realize that this is what they're gonna do. So yeah, Tommaso, you have to share your.
Yeah, that's true. What about you? What
What
about
about me?
your? Yeah.
Being a military
I need the helmet shots.
ex-professional. uh, Me too. I want the helmet as well. Being in the military for 20 something years, um, I had already this parallel where work become your lifestyle, and in a way, the way that we work in the military is very 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 well sport related, because you set up goals, you set a checklist, you plan for it. So for me it was quite natural, but I had to find the exact sport. So when I came to Dubai in 2013, that's when I put bits and pieces together. You know, that was that. Okay, I can set up the right goal for where I am now. I have the lifestyle and the you know, my daughter is grown up and my wife is allowing and the work is allowing because you know I have more money, I can buy stuff, you know. So there was a logistic helped out a lot to make sure that I was able to achieve. Okay, so you know, it's something that I've always been looking in long term, you know, and never been a good stock exchange guy, you know, like go short. No, I was like, okay, let's buy this and let's see in 20 years what it comes. I still have an investment that I bought in Italian mail service in 1994. I mean, I have the paper. I don't know if it works again, you know, because there is no paper anymore. But probably it should be some minutes. If if I'm able, I'll go to Naples and try to get this money anyway. But so that's something that's coming from me. But then also logistic and lifestyle helped a lot. Okay. Good, guys. I think it was we're getting there. This mindset it's probably is not only 3 episodes, not only 5. It could be probably a full season about the mindset. But then we get into the spiritual, and then I don't know if I can get there, if I have the terminology. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here today. Thank you, Mo, waking up early and waking up your family there that they're sleeping after your Ironman. Okay. Thank you, Joe, Alessio, and Melina for you know, making sure that this happens always on time. Not. All right, guys.
All right.
Next week.
Good.
I'll see you next time.
See you soon.
Yeah.
Thank
See
you.
ya.
See you soon, guys. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you, guys.